Hello everybody, welcome back to another Inkylesconvo. It's great to be back, and also just a little explanation that isn't my dog. Like, there's nothing to do with me. Forget that's even there. I don't know why they're there. Anyway, today we have another person that's been involved in football. As people don't, I don't know if people actually know, but like, I'm a fan of like football, the game, not necessarily a team, maybe one or two teams, but not necessarily a team, just the game. And somebody that's been involved in quite a lot of different aspects is Darren Young. How are you doing, mate?
Fine, Kyle. Good to have you on. For me to be on. So thanks for asking us.
Good. No, it's honestly my pleasure. It's my pleasure. Now, you've I've never actually spoke to somebody that's genuinely played for like a quite big teams, to be honest with you, as well as like, looking into your history as well. You played for like big teams, obviously Aberdeen, Dunfermline, and Dundee and Greenock. Was the goal, before we get into like yourself a little bit, was the goal always to like be a football player or be involved in football, or was that something that you did on the side and you just kind of flourished, if that makes sense?
Nah, it's my life.
Yeah.
Since I was kind of five, obviously with my brother as well, 5, 6-year-old, we both kind of started playing, and that's all I wanted to be. Everything for me, everything was geared towards being a footballer, even not really knowing that, because we were trained when we were younger. We were literally, when we get a wee bit older, you were kind of training on Monday night, you're training Tuesday night, you're training sometimes Wednesday, Thursday, you're kind of your own boys club. Friday, you'd kind of had a day off. Saturday morning, you'd be playing with your boys club or your school team. Then in the afternoon, you'd play with your boys club when you get a wee bit older. And then sometimes on a Sunday with the local team, just to kind of help out. But for me, everything was kind of geared towards that. I played football because I loved it. I played football because that's what I wanted to do. Every day, you come back from school and you'd be playing. Lunch break at school, whatever it may be, you're always playing football. And I think probably by playing it so much and getting so many touches of the ball, you're improving your skill, you're improving your technique without actually knowing it, or without someone actually being over your shoulder to say, "Oh, go do this, go and do that." Now, obviously, you've got the schools where the performance schools where the kids actually go to a certain school to play football, and then they'll work their studies around the kind of football side of things. Whereas we went to school, and then any time there was spare, you just played football. And it wasn't, again, it's just because you wanted to do that. You loved it. You wanted to play it. Albeit there wasn't any computer games, there wasn't any mobile phones and all that kind of stuff back then. Would that have made a difference? Possibly, because you may not have had as many friends and members that run about your area that would want to play football. So it maybe did make a big difference. But for me personally, I know that's something I always wanted to do, and you just always had it in your mind when you were kind of getting to the ages. It was about 10-year-old, we started playing or getting training with like Rangers, Aberdeen, Hearts, etc. They started to kind of show an interest when the scouts were at your boys club games. And then obviously that's when it started to get a wee bit serious. Then when you were kind of 14, there was called a schoolboy form, so it was an S form, and that gave you a 2-year contract with whatever club you decided to go with, and that got you to your 16. And then when you were 16, that was kind of around about leaving school time. You had if you were still good enough, they wanted you, then you could then go and say, look, it was a 2-year deal with like a Rangers, Aberdeen, etc. For me, it was kind of Aberdeen. I loved going to Aberdeen. We would go up there 3 times a year. We would train with them every week, but we would go up there 3 times a year in the Easter holidays, summer holidays, and then the October break. And all the kind of boys that were kind of liked, the guys that you trained with in the Monday night and stuff. So there was boys for Dundee, boys for Glasgow. You met Aberdeen boys up there as well. So we all went up and we stayed for a week in Great Western Road, stayed in the digs, and then kind of get looked after. And then we'd get a minibus through Java. We'd pick us up in the minibus. We'd go straight to the training, straight to the stadium, get changed in there. You're mixing with the first team players, you're mixing with the reserves. So it was some experience to be there. And then once we went out to training, you were kind of 50 yards away from the first team, which again was unbelievable, because these are guys that you look up to and guys you see on the TV and sports scene type of thing. And then to be actually so close to them that you could actually go and touch them or speak to them and get a bit of banter with them. It was amazing, and I kind of made my decision up. At the same time, Aberdeen as a team were bringing through a lot of young players, whereas your Rangers, Celtics, etc. were maybe spending big money on players. So for me, it was always, how am I going to get playing first team football, quicker and with a good team, and it was kind of through that youth setup. They had Ian Jess was kind of one of the main ones that came through. You had Stephen Wright, you had Scott Booth, Stevie Glass, etc. So all these guys that were coming through to the first team, and I just felt that there was a better pathway for me to go. And if I was kind of, if you're good enough, you're old enough type of thing, whereas other teams you were maybe still 19, 20 before you're kind of breaking into the first team. I got into the first team when I was 17, so I think I was proven correct to kind of go down that route.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. Yeah, you were you became the youngest ever Aberdeen captain at only 22. Is it still to today the youngest ever?
But Willie Miller was the youngest. I was the kind of second youngest, so he was kind of running out at the same time. But no, it was amazing at the time to get that, and I probably never realised it's one of those ones that you can look back on and think, wow, I was 20. Because I think one of the times Derek White was out injured when I was captain, I was 21. But I think one of the things as well with that was we had a lot of young boys coming through. So there was like, say, myself, there was Russell Anderson, there was Michael Hart, Jamie McAllister was there. We had Kevin McNaughton, we had Phil Maguire, Chris Clark, Darren Mackey, Ryan Essen. So we had all these guys that came through for the youth team. And it was crazy to have so many young players go through. So although I was 21, 22, I was still kind of one of the oldest players in the team. So I think for me, it was kind of a natural progression. I'd been like the captain when I was in my boys' club, when I was school team, youth team, reserves. So for me, it was natural just to go and then become the captain of the club. Again, it was a great honour for them to come and say that. And I done as best I could. I was maybe not the most vocal. I wouldn't say vocal in a bad way. Just I was always encouraging and helping guys. But I kind of felt I kind of led more by my performances rather than slaughtering players and getting stuck into players. And again, because you knew everyone, that team and that group of boys, the spirit we had and the togetherness we had, they're all hard-working players who you know that worst case scenario that they're not going to be lazy, or they're not going to chuck in the towel. You know that every single one of them were at it, so you didn't really need to kind of get into guys that way. It was more a case of just come on, you can do better, or unlucky, good luck next time, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Wow. Now going for like being involved in such a professional team and things like that, was that like, I know you were saying like you were like going from Aberdeen and stuff. Was it always, when you were training up to be a football player, was it always Scottish football you had in mind? I know you're saying Aberdeen and things, but was there the slight bit of you that wanted to kind of like be involved in English football as well?
Oh yeah, you'd always had that wee hope and that ambition that you were good enough that you could then go and improve. You do well at Aberdeen, and you maybe get a move down south, because that was obviously where the silly money was down there. And again, to go down and maybe test yourself, whether it was the Championship or whether it was the Premiership, if you're lucky enough to kind of get that. But no, it never ever happened. And again, I was more than happy enough with how I did and kind of how my career went into Scotland anyway. But no, it would have been great to obviously go down there and kind of test yourself, but it was something that never ever came up.
Yeah. And then you went to Dunfermline for 5 years. What was the reason you left Aberdeen, or was it that you kind of got scouted and they asked you, do you want to come down and play with us?
No, there's a few decisions. There's a few things that kind of caused that. Kind of one of the main things was my dad. My dad was kind of told he kind of had a year and a half left. So that coincided. I know, it's fine. So that coincided with the contract being up at the same time. We had there was wage cuts, so there was a lot of teams. I think it was maybe Motherwell, I think it was Hamilton, and maybe Dundee or somebody like that. Airdrie possibly as well. These teams are kind of getting not quite liquidated, but they were kind of going to the wall. So the Bank of Scotland, I remember at the time, they'd pulled in and says, look, we're not giving it any more money. So Aberdeen was in a position where everyone was taking a wage cut. So personally, it was like a 60% wage cut. And I'm thinking, God, I've worked my way up here for the youth team. I've worked my way up all the way through. Did very well. And now I'm the captain. And what used to always happen, you'd get all these foreign players coming in, and then they were on double, treble your wages. And then all of a sudden you're kind of getting asked to take a wage cut, which of that amount, you're thinking, geez, so kind of weighed up. At the same time, the interest was there for Dunfermline. And to be honest, the manager at the time, which was Stevie Patterson, again, things weren't that great in Aberdeen. Dunfermline had finished above Aberdeen the last 2 seasons in a row, and for me on paper at that point in time, Dunfermline had better players than Aberdeen. So there was that. There was a 3-year deal offered at Dunfermline as well, and on top of that, a good wee bit more money, and then obviously with the family situation as well. So there was 3 or 4 things that kind of added up. Would I like to have stayed at Aberdeen? 100%. I'd have loved to have been at Aberdeen and stayed there and improved and done better, but it wasn't to be. And then just with the circumstances, we got down to Dunfermline, me and my brother, and at the same time, the 5 years I was there, we got to 4 cup finals, we got into Europe twice, so it was an amazing time. The very first season, we got a Scottish Cup final, we got beat, but we got into Europe, and at the same time, we'd finished 4th in the league, which was Dunfermline's highest ever finish in the Premier League at the time. So so it was pretty amazing to do that. We got 2 Scottish Cup finals, a League Cup final, and then the season we got relegated, we were in the Challenge Cup final. So to go to any team and be able to get to 4 cup finals in 5 years was a great achievement. And also got into Europe as well, although we didn't do too great in Europe, but at the same time, it's still great for the fans and great for the club to be in there.
Yeah, that's it, to be honest with you, to even reach that professional level. I think I maybe know one person that ended up like doing really well at only 27, so it's not even that long ago that when somebody actually did like really, really well at football. So that's still a huge accomplishment. You even managed to get to play for like those teams so far. That's but before we get into like a little bit more of like your football experience in that and the teams and stuff, the goal of, like you're saying, the goal was to like play football and be it obviously your football all the time and school and things like that as well. And I'm curious I was thinking about how did you manage to balance your time, especially when you were like a lot younger as well, when you were at school, football, social life? How did you manage to balance all that together?
My social life was football, to be honest. So that was it. It was, again, you go to school and it's literally, honestly, as soon as you go to have a roll or have your lunch and then you go away and play football. And that was just the norm. It wasn't frowned upon. It wasn't looked upon. Like, God, look at this wee guy. Everybody was doing the same thing. So it was just natural. So don't get me wrong, you're starting to get a wee bit older, 15, 16 type of age, your friends and that are starting drinking and things like that. But again, I never drank till I was 18. I never ever drank till I got into the first team at Aberdeen. It wasn't a conscious thing. It was just, well, one, I never really liked beer. So I never liked the taste of beer and alcohol, really, to be honest. But at the same time, I was just kind of that mindset that I just want to be a football player. And yeah, you kind of, I don't want to go into if I go down that route. I mean, I knew players and guys that were going out and drinking Friday night and did the game on the Saturday, and you're thinking, what are you doing, man? And they're sometimes they missed the school team game or they missed the boys' club game or whatever. And again, and I'll be honest, there was guys that were kind of better than me anyway, technically. I think for me, because I had a very good mindset. I know what I wanted and how I was going to get it and how I was going to achieve it. I mean, yeah, you would get slagged off and you would get slaughtered with your friends. Oh, come on, get a drink, do this, do that. But again, it was easy for me to like, no. So I'd be going out and be going into town or whatever, and I'd just be drinking Coke or lemonade and things like that. And to be fair, once I started driving, then they were loving it because then I was the designated driver and they were getting dropped off. So, but again, I was still going to enjoy myself, so I could still enjoy myself without that. But no, it was, for me, it was easy. It was one of those things. I didn't feel like I was missing out on anything because we still, don't get me wrong, we still went away and ran about and we played. If you're not playing football at the time, it was, for instance, if it was Wimbledon was on, you're all playing tennis at the same time, and then whatever it be, you're just kind of that season, whether it's tennis season or whatever it is, you were always going and again playing with everybody, enjoying yourself, and there was that many people and kids in and around about the area that you could go and do that, and there was always somebody to go and play with, whether it was football or go out yourself and knock the ball off the wall, which again is it's one of the things I did as well. And then consciously you're going to hit the ball off the wall 50 times, 100 times, and you're looking back now, you're thinking, God, that's maybe why I was so good at this or so good at that. And you'd be trying to hit the no ball game sign. We had a set of garages where we lived. So again, you try to hit the garage, try to hit the other garage, and then you're working your way up and you're working your way down. And it's just things that you just did because you're a kid. You never did it because of any other reason. So it was just, it just came natural. There wasn't really, I didn't feel like I missed out. I was certainly, wouldn't change anything. The way my childhood and growing up and that was absolutely amazing. And I wouldn't change it for a thing. Even when it came to summer holidays, your summer holidays was basically a football tournament. So you'd be playing football every day, and then you'll get your kind of maybe 6 weeks break in the summer for the school, or whatever, a 6 or 7 week break. And my mum and dad would be going away. Like one of the times we went to the Milk Cup in Ireland. We went there, we got to the final. I was playing for Hearts at the time. And then the next week, after that was finished, my mum and dad were over, brilliant, over in Northern Ireland. And then like a week, 10 days later, my brother was playing for Rangers in a tournament away down in Preston Pans and Gittins in Wales. So again, our summer holidays then turned into football holidays as well. So it was just that's the way it was. And again, we didn't know any different, but at the same time, we loved it.
Yeah, it's something to be admired as well, because at the end of the day, you can't take any time back. So the fact that you literally dedicated your life to football, it's so admirable. That's the thing. But I'm curious as well, where did the motivation come from before obviously we get into the rest of your career? Where did the motivation to be a football player come from? Was that from like you're saying your dad and your parents and that, or was that you just watched it when you were younger and generally just loved the game?
Probably just a bit of everything. We were never ever pushed or says go and do this, go and do that. We just always wanted to do it. And then I can remember, although I was only 6 at the time when we first started, I just remember some of my friends, so like, Mum, so and so's going to this football team, Cathie United. Can we go type of thing? And they knew the managers and the coaches, and again the neighbours and the kids around the corner that were all going and playing. So they were like, yeah, let's go. And they just kind of took us along. And I think if at any point we didn't like it, didn't want to go, I think they'd probably just say, right, that's fine. But they always allowed us to make our own decision, even when it came to like signing S form. My dad's a big Rangers fan at the time, and then again I think he was probably happy that we did sign for Aberdeen, because he knew the way our thinking was that we would get a better opportunity to kind of break through. But there was never any pressure. There was just probably a bit of everything, and that's what you did, and that's what we wanted to do. There was other guys that were maybe into boxing and things like that, which again, I wasn't really that interested. They were on, probably one of the guys, was Scott Harrison. You remember him, the Scottish boxer. Again, he ended up becoming a world-class boxer for Scotland. So again, he went down that kind of route and things like that. So it's one of these things that it was always in you to go and do well. And I think for me, mentally, you would always set targets. Like I wouldn't be writing things down in a book or anything like that. It would just be like, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to be by this point. And if I'm getting into a season, can I score so many goals? Can I get so many assists? So that was, I think, you were kind of self-motivating in a way.
Yeah. I mean, the fact, like, how to say it. Well, a better way to put it would be, say, like, because you're playing for such these big teams and that, how didn't you, like, because obviously there's a lot of pressure, as you know. So how didn't you let the pressure get to you as such to perform well? I know it's probably common sense, but to perform well constantly, how did you not let that pressure, like, I'm playing for example, the next team you went to was Dundee. How didn't you like, well, I'm involved in all these sorts of big teams. How didn't the pressure, like, kind of get to you? How were you able to control it?
I think it just, I don't know. I think it just came naturally. I think obviously there wasn't any like certain techniques or anything that I did that I used. I think you just become used to it. Obviously, you're younger and you're coming through. There's always still that wee nervousness when you get out to play in a game. Just that wee, I want to do well. And there is times when it did affect you. I remember the times where I was a captain at Aberdeen, and I knew I was going through a bad spell, and I was giving the ball away, and I did feel the pressure. But you just need to keep working hard, and in the way it kind of probably helped, the manager took me out of the team for a game, and when he took me out, I could actually feel the difference. Like, see, when he brought you out, you're like, geez, this whole weight, because we were on a poor run at the time with Aberdeen. I hadn't been playing particularly well myself, and we hadn't won in whatever 4 or 5 games. So you're the captain, you feel a lot of responsibility. And then I remember when he obviously named the team, and you're kind of pissed off that you're not in the team, but at the same time, I remember it being like a bit of relief. It's again not embarrassed to admit that, but it did. You just kind of felt that. But I think after that happened, you're then like, right, I'm going to show him. So it was like, I want to be back in this team. And I think just by him kind of leaving you out the team, it did take a bit of pressure off me. And the exact game, that same game, I remember it was Kilmarnock away. We were getting beat at the time. And then I come on and I scored a 30-yarder and then I set the second one up. So like that wee, obviously taking me out has probably helped me. But at the same time, whatever it was, I went on in 60 minutes or 70 minutes, and then I went on and I scored a really good goal, and then I set up another goal. So it was great. And that, it's not that you need a reaction; just sometimes that happens. It's the same for myself when I'm now a manager, and you can see that maybe at times certain guys are maybe trying too hard, or it's kind of getting to them. They don't do things off the cuff. They don't do things naturally. They can see there is something not quite right with them. And sometimes it just takes leaving them out for a game or two to kind of get that wee reaction, and it just gives you that wee kind of boost, because they're maybe feeling a bit of pressure themselves, that maybe it's a striker or maybe it's a defender that's giving away goals and strikers not taking his chances. So sometimes there's just that wee bit there. But I think nowadays we never really had any like analysts or anything like that. We had to your video recorders were put in and you're recording it if it was on Sky, or you're recording it if it's on the Scott Sport or Sportscene, whereas now, straight after the game, or even at half time, you can actually watch back the highlights of the game, or there's how we lost that goal in the first half, or there's how we lost that corner, or etc. So you can actually watch it straight away. I think if we're having these things now, should be a lot easier for, hopefully with these players now, you've got that technology there and you can go and show them as a manager and they can go and see it as a player, because most teams now have that, like you can watch the game within 24 hours, or certain teams will be able to edit your own clips, so you can go and see, right, this is where I went wrong. And whereas at the time I was only going on what I can remember in the game, and I was going on how I felt at that point in time. So once you watched it back, there's a lot of times when I watched it back, I thought, God, I wasn't as bad as I felt I was, or I didn't do this, or I didn't do that, or I did do this and I did do that. So being able to watch back the analysis, it's great feedback, because you get to see it and it puts you in a better place. There's a couple of games we've maybe been beat, or I'm thinking after the game, oh God, I was rubbish, or the team's played crap now that I'm a coach. And then you watch it back, you think, God, you're a wee bit harsh on yourself, because we've actually did very well. We've created this many chances, and the other team you played against, maybe had one chance and they've scored it. You've had 7 or 8 and you've missed them. So instead of questioning yourself and questioning your team and questioning your decisions, you're then kind of saying, right, well, how have I influenced it? And it's like, right, well, they've done this right, they've done this right, they've done this right, and then this player's maybe switched off, or this player. I think the ones, if a team rip you apart, or you don't get your formation right, or your shape right, and they're getting too much of possession, then you're kind of looking at yourself saying, God, I could have maybe had another midfielder, or could have maybe had another striker, and it's just kind of working that out. But more often than not, it is good to kind of look back on it, but I think more often than not I've got it right.
Yeah, you certainly have, to be fair. That's, as you know, speaking to different people that are involved in the technology side, it's crazy the technology they have now. That's the thing. But sometimes I think, you know, as they say, too much of something's like a bad thing. So I think maybe like the way you guys had it was maybe more, you know, just my opinion, obviously, maybe more like concentrated on the game, versus now it's concentrated on the player, if that makes sense. If you feel what I'm trying to go. I guess it has its benefits, but it has its downfalls at the same time. But now you went to Dundee Football Club. What was the reason why you moved from one club to Dundee? What was the reason behind that one?
Dunfermline again, they'd offered me another deal at the end of the season. Again, it was more of a kind of wage cut again, and then I was getting a good offer. It was a 2-year deal at Dundee that I accepted, and I felt like Dundee were kind of a club on the up. But again, it never really turned out too great. By this point, I started to get a few problems with my calves, and basically the majority of the 2 seasons there, I was kind of in and out, stop start. I think I've only played 10 games and came on a sub 10 times in the 2 seasons, which was a terrible record, and very poor from my point of view. It's just one of those things. I couldn't get over it, and just we tried everything, and again, it got to the point where even the physio was kind of saying it was in my head and stuff like that, which anybody that kind of knew me knew thing well, how hard I was working in the background to try and get myself fit. I was going and seeing all sorts of people over and above the club, guys about my back, guys about my balance, insoles. I was at one point I was going to a hyperbaric chamber, to see if that would help. So you're sitting alongside, so it was like kind of 60-year-olds, 70-year-olds who are kind of using this treatment to help them and make them get better. And again, here's me, this wee sort of 30-year-old guy in here just trying to get his calves better and trying everything that I can. I remember as well going and seeing a I don't know, it was like maybe like hypnotherapy type of thing. So you're just kind of lying on the couch and the guy's kind of speaking to you. And again, I never really kind of bought into that because at no point did I ever think it's in my head. Well, I knew it was never in my head because anybody will tell you being injured as a football player is an absolute nightmare. You can't do anything, and it's at the same time I remember when the manager was trying to kind of make it out that way as well, and I said, well, first of all, you've now signed another midfielder in my place. Part of your contract you get like appearance money, part of your contract you get win bonus. I say, so right now I don't get any appearance money, I don't get any win bonus. I'm now down the pecking order when I get back fit because you've signed another midfielder. On top of that, I was having to drive up to Dundee myself. I was living in Cumbernauld at the time, so I was having to drive up myself every day in the car. So again, who would make that choice to kid on they were injured? There's not really many. And it's not, the money was good, but it's not life-changing money that you're saying, oh, I'll just sit here and chill out. Far from it.
Yeah. What was the, and then you went to Greenock. Was that the reason why? Was because they were just not necessarily because they weren't believing in you. You just kind of felt like you're not. They were kind of like, as you said, sign the player in your place and stuff like that.
I was struggling. Basically, at the end of the season, struggling still with my calves, and then it was by chance they've come in and take a wee gamble on me. I had played a trialist game for Cooney the South, broke down again, so that was very embarrassing because I lasted 5 minutes in the game, 10 minutes in the game. And then my calf went again, I had to come off. Again, I had to apologise to the manager. And then I knew finally I wasn't getting a deal, went through to see another physio. It was actually Kenny Crichton, who's actually the physio now for me at Stirling Albion. So I knew him a way back then, so he helped me try and get back fit. And then I managed to get a deal for Morton to this January window at the time. So I got a 6 months deal. And then I remember it breaking down again. And then I managed to get myself back fit. And then they were offering me another deal for the end to the end of the season. And again, I knew I was struggling. And it was really getting to the point of being full time. Can't really remember what age I was, but it was quite scary because you were going to become, all of a sudden, you're coming out of full-time football, which all you've known your whole life. And I was thinking, I'm going to have to get a real job here because I just can't get back fit. So I was in holiday at the time in Dubai, and it was Paul Hartley had phoned us and just says, look, I'm taking over at Alloa, I want you to come in, be my captain, etc. We're obviously League Two. He goes, but I can get you in with the coaching side of things. So because he knew I was kind of wanting to do that, I then became kind of head of the community coaching. It was brilliant for me because that was my kind of step, going from full-time to part-time, but at the same time, I was a part-time player and then learning up through my badges and through the coaching. So to do that was amazing, and it kind of got me started down the kind of coaching route, which is something I always felt I would fall into anyway, just because you want to be involved in football any way you can. And then again, it worked really, really well. He'd again brought us on board. We won the league in our first season. Second season, we then finished second in the league and got through the playoffs. We actually knocked Dunfermline out the playoffs, and then get promoted to the championship. And then we stayed in the championship. So it was a great 3 years at Alloa, and at the same time, it put me on course for my coaching side of things.
What did it feel like getting to play against like players you've actually been in a team involved in? Was it still the same players that you played against?
Yeah.
What did it feel like? What did it feel like literally beating them because you were with these guys and now you're literally beating them? Yeah,
I mean, there was quite a few changes, but at the same time, no, it's again, it was you look after yourself at that point. It's you're not happy that you've relegated them, but at the same time, I'm buzzing because I've got my own team up. So at that point in time, you've just got to look after your number one, and them staying up and me staying down doesn't benefit me, but them coming down and me going up benefits me and benefits the team. Obviously, you're the captain of the club and you want the club to go and improve and progress and do that. And we had that with 3 great years. So it was a bit awkward, but at the same time, I was wanting to win for Alloa.
Yeah. And then you moved to, is it I'm going to get this name wrong. Is it Albion Rovers? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, Albion
Yeah,
Rovers.
Albion. Yeah, I'm terrible with names. But if you moved there as a player manager, like you're saying, was that like your first kind of, was like, were you more a manager than a player, or were you more player than a manager?
No, I was more player than a manager in my first season. I remember when I was going there, Albion were a team that would always finish maybe 9th or 10th in League Two, and a lot of people were questioning why I'm taking that as my first ever like management gig. But I mean, I was going there as a player manager, so I knew I would probably 3/4 of it I'd be still playing and training all the time. And I brought in Sandy Clark again, someone who's been in the game for years and massive experience, and somebody I'd worked under. So once I spoke to Sandy, and he spoke to the board and says, right, like they seem quite ambitious. And then we went, and again that very first season we won the league, which is an unbelievable experience. Albion Rovers only won it 3 times in 145 years or something. So to be kind of one of the managers that goes and does that, especially for me, to start off your management career winning a league title was something else. And again, it's something that'll get all over me. It's just a great achievement, and being there as a player as well, and then obviously as the manager. So it was good to do that. And again, get that experience. After that first season, I remember I did an interview for a job as well. I'd been not offered a job, but obviously I did an interview. I didn't think it was the right time for me to kind of move on, because I was still kind of learning my trade, as you would say. And again, it was Sandy was moving on. Actually, Sandy was actually going back to Dunfermline because he'd get a chance to go full time. That was kind of always part of the deal. And then Billy Stark came in. So again, Billy, another guy who's massive influence and massive in Scottish football's been there and done it as a manager and as a player and stuff. So it was great to then get his experience. And I still kind of played a good wee bit. And then on the third season, I was kind of not playing as much. So it was, again, I was picking Sandy's brain, I was picking Billy's brain, and again, just kind of learning as I went as well. So it was a great start for me and a great experience before I kind of moved over to East Fife.
What was the reason you moved over to East Fife again? Was it just like a better contract for yourself?
Well, the Albion Rovers one is kind of coming to a head. They'd which again wage cuts, etc. So the wage cut at that time wasn't really a problem. I could accept the wage cut, but there was like a 40-50% cut in the budget. So the playing budget was the main thing. My wages was kind of relevant. I felt, and I said that to the chairman at the time. I says, look, I says that's a relegation budget. I goes, can't really accept that. And I pointed out there's 2 or 3 different ways to make money, just through like different little schemes and different little things. And there was with phone numbers, with other clubs that were willing to kind of sit down with the chairman and say, look, we can help you out and stuff. Never took it on board. I'd asked him, I says, well, if I could bring in X amount to the club through these wee ventures, etc., then are you willing to kind of use that for the budget? And he says, oh yeah, we'll maybe put 10% of it towards it. And I was like, then he asked me that I would need to do it as well. So it got to the point, it was ridiculous. I just said, well, look, chairman, you're retired. So this was a different chairman now. This was the second chairman. So again, he wasn't very experienced, should we say, in that side of things, and he was kind of thrown into deep end. So it's probably not his fault. But I just kind of said to him, I says, at the end of the day, I says, you're retired. I says, I'm playing football still. I still was playing and training. I'm coaching as well. I've got a job during the day with Remax, a state agent. And now you're asking if I can then go and do this other thing, bring in more money for the club, and then you're only going to give me 10%. I says, no chance. I says, you're sitting there, you've retired, and I've got 2 jobs, or 3 if you include that I'm still a player, and yet you want me to go and bring more money in. So we were still kind of semi-negotiating, and then all of a sudden we get a letter through the door, which again, very unprofessional, saying to Billy Stark, who is a bit of a legend in the game, if I've been honest, thank you, Billy, for your services, blah, blah, blah. Going into next season, your services are no longer required. So Billy phones me up and says, Gaffer, he goes, he says, are you bidding me? And I'm like, what? He goes, I've just got a letter through the door from Albion Rovers saying your services are no longer required. And I was like that. I goes, I don't know what you're talking about. Then next minute, I've got a chap at the door, recorded delivery. The goalkeeping coach has got a chap at the door. So we all get these letters out, not got a clue that we were now told that we were no longer going to be the management from next season, which was an absolute embarrassment. And then the thing with that is as well, we still had a chance of being promoted and in the playoffs to go up a division. We still had the chance to be in the playoffs and get relegated. So I mean, it was highly unlikely that we were going to go down. You need the miracle results, but there was the opportunity to go up the way, and to get that through the door and stuff. We kind of knew that was kind of on the line. So I was obviously starting to kind of look forward, and then at that time we went our separate ways. And Stevie Kirk, who had been on the board at Albion Rovers and also been the manager at East Fife, and he knew the board at East Fife. I'd spoken to him and says, look, this job's come up and could you put in a word for me? And he kind of spoke to the chairman, and I put my CV in, and then I got the East Fife job.
Yeah. Is there, when you moved, now you were at East Fife till literally November last year. What did you, are you currently at a team now, or are you, like, what team are you at now?
Still in Albion now.
Still in Albion, right, okay.
So it was worked out really well. I mean, I had 4.5 great years at East Stirling, call it East Fife, sorry. And it was, again, we did a lot there as a coaching staff, as a management. We got to the last 16 of the Scottish Cup, which I hadn't done for years. We qualified from the League Cup section. We got to the last 16 of the League Cup, played Rangers, which again, a great thing for the club, great thing for the fans and the players to go and play up against this Premier League team with international players. We got to the semi-final of the Challenge Cup, was something they never ever done. We beat Raith Rovers, which is our biggest rivals in 30 years. They hadn't beat them in 30 years, so to go and do that 2 or 3 times was amazing. We also just missed out in the playoffs by a point. Every season we were in there as well, we kind of challenged for the playoffs. So we're a team that were, shall we say, a lower end budget in the league. Out of the League of 10, you're probably talking a 9th, 10th place budget, 8th type of thing. And again, you live by your means, so that's never a problem for me. Yeah, we'll kind of, whatever we're kind of given to work with, we'll work with. And again, just as we kind of get let go, we did a lot of injuries and a lot of things were kind of going on. But at the same time, it's one of these things that happens in football, and we just couldn't get out of the rut. We lost a few key players as well. So, but it was only 29 days I was out for, which again is probably very, very good considering you get some managers who have been out for quite a long time. So to get the opportunity to come back in straight away was amazing. And again, still in good club, going the right direction. And again, I spoke to the chairman, spoke to the board, and they're all kind of similar ambitions to myself. So it was good to kind of have that. Good bunch of boys. I kind of knew them from kind of coaching against them as well. So it was one of the ones you're just kind of lucky to be at the right place at the right time.
Yeah. So are you manager and player just now, or are you just a manager just now?
No, I'm just manager now. Yeah, so 43 now, but don't get me wrong, I think if I could get myself fit, but every time I try to play a few times on a Monday night with friends and that, but I keep on kind of breaking down. I probably get a couple of weeks out it and then my calf goes or something happens. So I think I probably don't do enough fitness wise to kind of keep myself right. So
what did you ever end up finding out what was wrong with you, Cap? Like, or is it still to this day they're still like, we're not quite sure?
I don't know. I think it's just maintenance really. I remember at the time when I had a good run at it with Aberdeen and Dunfermline and stuff, we were kind of getting maintained, and used to get my back cracked once a week and all that kind of stuff. So see a kind of chiropractor, and I think at times when you're sort of your bits and bobs are all kind of out of joint, and then you're kind of one bit's compensating for something else. So there is kind of that, and then I don't know, maybe there's the part as well of been playing so much football when you're so younger as well, and it just maybe catches up in your body, because we were literally, like, as it says, it was at one point you were training a Monday night, you were training a Tuesday night, you were training a Wednesday night. You were off on a Wednesday, and then you were training a Thursday. You had 2 games on a Saturday morning, Saturday night, Saturday afternoon, and then sometimes on a Sunday. So I look at that and I say, is there maybe a wee bit of that? And again, we never really had sports science and things like that back then. So maybe if you had all that technology, and again, to be able to check on yourself and look after yourself, then it probably might have been better for me, and I'd have been able to get to the problem quicker or easier and kind of get myself sorted.
Yeah, it's the see when you were playing and you had the calf injury, was it always on your mind that it was there, or were you trying to like take your mind off of it just in case you ended up doing something that would affect it, if that makes sense?
No, there would be a slight mental block when you're coming back from it. But then I knew I got to know my body, so it would literally be there's no pain there. It would be fine. I could be just running about, and then all of a sudden, it just like a shooting pain would just go right up my calf. So it's obviously coming from somewhere. It's because I could literally run about. I mean, I remember there's one time I'd hurt my left calf, and then I'd done the rehab for 2-3 weeks again, come back feeling fine. And then I started running and playing, and I got halfway through a session, and my right calf went. So it's just you just kind of put your finger on it, and you just love somebody to turn around and say, "Look, Dan, here you go." And again, if they did that, don't get me wrong, if they did that, then I wouldn't be where I was right now. So if I'd maybe I could have maybe played longer at a higher level, but at the same time, I'm now a coach, I'm now a manager. I've been doing that now for 8 years now. So my 8th season of doing that. So I wouldn't have had that opportunity to go and do that. And again, do so well at Albion Rovers, win a league title, do so well at East Fife, with everything we achieved there. And now obviously taking over Stirling and trying to kind of emulate what we kind of did with East Fife and Albion Rovers. So it's one of those ones you then wouldn't have maybe been in the position you're in if you did manage to keep yourself fit.
Yeah, like you never know what's happening around the corner, but then something happens, even if it's bad, then good rewards come. But see now you aren't, you are a manager and you're not a player anymore. How does that feel? Knowing like what these players are going through, the adrenaline, all that sort of stuff, but you're not stepping on the pitch. I know you're saying obviously you'll add a part onto that question as well, is that do you ever think to yourself, if one of these players goes out, you're like, I know you said, but you're like, I could go and play, but then you're like, no, because again, you're saying just now, like your fitness and your calf and that, you'd be like, nah, I wouldn't be able to last the game. Or what's your opinion on those?
I think obviously you're just trying to pass on your experience and trying to help these guys and improve these guys as best you can. If there's certain things I can see within their game that I think needs improved upon or worked upon, then I'll kind of speak to them and pull them aside. And again, you want to kind of help them improve them to get up the league, up the ladder. A lot of the guys, some of them are young enough that they can still possibly go back full-time football. So if you can do that and improve them and make them better, then it's massive. And again, just kind of using my own experience and speaking to them and for certain injuries. But don't get me wrong, I've got great, obviously, backroom staff and great physios with Kenny and the doc at the club now. So that kind of side of things is good, and the boys are kind of well taken care of. But it's just trying to be, because you know that I think obviously when you look to sign a player, you then first of all, I've came to the club, so you've inherited 20 players or whatever it may be. So you then have to kind of get to know the players. You have to get to know what they're like at training, what they're like in games, attitude-wise. How are they away from the club? Are they a good influence? Are they a bad influence? So you've got a million little things to do as you're coming in. Then, obviously, when it comes to recruiting, and for me, I've always been told, and I kind of knew this myself anyway, recruiting's the biggest part of football. So when you're kind of signing all those things I just spoke about, you've got to kind of take that into consideration of a player that you're trying to sign and a player you're trying to bring in, because you want the right guy. There's maybe some guys out there who are brilliant, great football players, but in the changing rooms or in the dressing rooms, they can cause problems if they're maybe not playing, or they're maybe big time and they're kind of full of themselves. So you need to kind of get that right balance. There is certain players that you can take a wee gamble on and etc. But it's just getting that kind of the right balance between having leaders and guys that have got the right attitude and want to go on and do well and win, to the other guys who are maybe just there for a payday.
Yeah, exactly. How you're saying the things you look for in a player. I'm curious, the people we've had on in that, well, I think we'll definitely be able to learn from this question as well. When you're looking to bring on a player now, like around like the days when social media was there, how does social media affect like do you check social media just to be like, I wonder what they're posting, like I wonder if they're a good influence like online as well as offline now, or is that not something that you take?
No, to be fair, it's a good question. It's something I've not thought about. I know in maybe normal everyday life jobs, then people maybe do that in regards to like obviously if you're just getting signed to for a job for a bank or something like that, then I know that the people will go and get that checked, but it's something I've never ever done. Maybe I might start doing that. But I think I know enough players within the game that you would go and speak to players and say, like, what's he like in the dressing room? What's he like as a player? There may be ex-managers who have worked with him, and you go and kind of speak to them and say, like, what's he? Is the right type of thing? So that's how we would kind of do our due diligence and how you would check them out. At the same time, has he been injured? How many injuries has he had? What's he like? Does he work hard to get back fit? Is he a hard-working player? Is he the right type? So all these things that I suppose you can look at social media as well, but it's something I've never ever kind of looked at that for a player. For me, if the guy's going and doing it on the park, yeah, they don't want him to be a bit of an idiot off the park, but you kind of find that out through just kind of speaking to ex-players, ex-managers and stuff.
Yeah. Now you're at Remax. How does it feel like? Because is that I don't like. Is that your first full-time job away from football? Like away from that? How does it feel to now have to do that versus you were being a football player before? If that makes sense.
I've been doing it for 7-8 years now, so it's something I'm used to. It's one of those things that when I was doing the coaching, because with the coaching, you were obviously the way our kind of football works with a part time. You're training a Tuesday night, you're training a Thursday night. You've got a game on a Saturday, and then with the coaching side of things, it was like a Monday night, a Wednesday night, often a Friday, but sometimes on a Sunday during the day you were in. So the coaching side of things, depending on what you're doing. Money wise, it wasn't great. Financially, it wasn't great. I felt I'd kind of done my bit with Allo at the time, and then just as I was kind of coming to the end of that, I was then had the opportunity to go and look at this estate agent stuff. So I went and did it. I knew the guy. I quite enjoyed it, and it was a lot better money, and it was quite good as well because you can kind of work your schedule around the football. So if I've got viewings, evaluations, etc., then I can kind of work it around my training. I can kind of work it around my football. So it was fine. It's never ever been a problem, but it's just something. It's more a financial thing than anything else. It gives me good balance. It gives me I've got a 4-year-old son as well, so you're just kind of working everything around it, and it's quite good. So. But no, I enjoyed it. But it's just one of the things. The boys used to slag me saying I was buying and selling players at night, and I was buying and selling houses during the day.
Did you, like again, another good question I think is how do you balance your time then? Because obviously I know you did it before, like years ago, but now do you take kind of implemented it? Well, I suppose it will be different with your son, and everything else. How do you spend your? I mean, that's a lot of work. And from speaking to coaches, it's full-time gig. It's crazy, but
yeah, although you're part-time in football, you're still full-time. You're still kind of looking at stuff. You've got your video clips, you've got your highlights. Again, you get stuff like Y Scout, or even you've got the time before Y Scout. I would be kind of watching all the highlights would come through on Twitter. So teams would always put up the highlights. So before you had the kind of Y Scouts, this kind of big kind of network with all the games. You can go and have a look at all the games. So if you're looking for a new player or whatever it may be, you've got scouts as well that will kind of look at teams and kind of point out differences. And then we've got a guy Bill at the club, and he'll kind of put up videos of corners, set pieces, transition, counter attacks, etc. So you've kind of got all that, and then again, it's just spending that time and having that time. So for me, I really go to my bed before 1 o'clock. It'd be if I was to go to my bed before 1 o'clock, it'd be a full moon or something. But I'm usually I'll go to my bed between kind of 1 and 2, and again, it's something that I've just kind of get used to, because at that point, obviously the wee one's sleeping. Sometimes the missus is usually sleeping as well, but then I get a bit of time myself, and I can then go and do that. And I'm looking at highlights, or I'm looking at players, or I'm looking at whatever it is, the next game you're coming up to, and maybe going over training for the night before, because you're training on Tuesday. So you've maybe looked over that and thinking, right, what can I improve on? What did I like about it? What did I not like about it? Is there certain players that weren't at it? And then you're then preparing for this is like the Wednesday, and you're then preparing for the Thursday training session. So again, how many players have we got? Who's injured? Who might be coming back? And again, what am I going to do? The team I'm playing against. So you're kind of looking at all these things and assessing everything. But at the same time, you might have got evaluation the next day, and I've got a viewing the next day. So you're then just kind of having to try and work everything out. So it's not easy, but at the same time, it pays the bills, and again, it's something that I've came to live with, and obviously fiance's understanding. She's fine on that side of things. Well, most of the time she's fine, but no, it's just trying to make sure you've got enough time you're spending with the family as well. So it's hard, but it's, again, the football, I don't look at it as a job. It's more I think that if I wasn't obviously getting paid or whatever, I would probably still be in football in some way, whether it's dropping down the leagues or whatever it may be. It's something that's always it's in me, and it always probably will be.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, now you're saying you have a 4-year-old son. I'm sure people would want me to ask this question. Are you going to kind of not push him, but kind of persuade him, be like, hey, I was a professional player. You should kind of become a professional player. Like, are you going to think, or are you just going to be like, you do you type thing?
No, I would love them. I'd love him to kind of follow in my footsteps, and I'd love him to go and play football. He's kind of getting better in regards to not picking up the ball and throwing it, and he likes to try and kick it now. So, so that's quite good. We did try to get him into the kind of wee mini kicker things, it was called, when he was kind of just 3.5, 4. But that stopped just because of the Christmas and stuff. But no, again, you would love him to go and do that. But it's kind of up to him. I'll let him kind of follow his own path. But I will kind of trying to help him at times, but I certainly wouldn't be one of these guys that are just forcing him to go and play it. Again, he needs to kind of have that. You need to have it in you. I think if you go and do that, then the kids start to kind of go against you. Yeah, I would love to do it. And he's getting into shouting now in the football zone as well, so it's quite funny because the time Scotland were qualifying or got to the kind of the World Cup type of thing and the playoffs, and it was like, "Go Scotland!" And he's now shouting when the football's on, "Go Scotland!" So it's good to kind of see, and he does get quite excited and jump about. But no, I would love him to kind of play whatever level it may be.
Yeah, it's now a question that I'm curious about as well, especially with you having two hard kind of not like mentally draining, but like hard going jobs, like effectively like managing and an estate agent. What would you say is like your biggest flaws professionally and personally?
I think maybe just kind of time management and just kind of fitting everything in. I think with the football side of things, obviously I've certainly learned. Again, it's 8 years now, so I've kind of certainly learned. Again, we spoke about this off camera as well regarding the not letting it get to you. I think you don't never get too high. It's something I was always, even as a player, never get too high and never get too low with a win or a victory. And again, you just keep on working hard and things will turn as long as you're doing the kind of right things and you're good enough. And I think that was maybe trying not to let that affect you, because I would be coming home, even as a player, you would come home and maybe I arranged to go out for dinner with the missus or whatever, and you would go, "Nah, I'm not going out, don't want to go out," and then you would just be kind of pissed off and you're just down, and not down, but you're just annoyed, and then obviously take a couple of days to get over it. And now it's, again, you kind of, with the wee one as well, it's quite funny because you come home and you go, "Daddy," and he's just jumping up at me and stuff. So it's hard to be kind of down, and then you're, at the same time, you're annoyed and you're pissed off that you've maybe get beat and the team's not performed that well now that you're a coach. And but again, you look at it and assess it. So from my point of view, kind of one of the flaws, you would just be take it more to heart. Whereas now you've got the analyst stuff and you've got all that stuff to kind of look over and say, right, is it me? Did I get it wrong? Did I pick the wrong team? Did I pick the wrong formation? Did I pick the wrong players? Or did one of the players just not match a runner? Did one of the players not take his chance? So there's things now that you can then look at. Why did we beat? How did we get beat? And then how can I improve and put upon that? So there is that side of things for the football. So flaws would have probably been that I kind of took it to heart, and then now that you kind of look over stuff and you're like, right, okay, so you don't need to get. But you're still annoyed, you don't want to get beat, but there is, you can look over it and then you can make a better decision once you've kind of looked over all the stuff, the Remax kind of stuff. Then again, I was just kind of learning on the job as you go. So it's, again, we're kind of self-employed, so there's a lot of things I probably did wrong at the start, but now I've been doing it for 8 years. There's nothing really that I can kind of pinpoint and say, oh, don't do this or don't do that. You're kind of in the kind of same thing. You're always evolving. Probably the guy always goes on about maybe not doing enough videos. So maybe to the odd stage, he'll be doing videos of their work and going to it. I've seen a couple of things from like Remax agents over in like in America and Canada and all that kind of stuff where it kind of came from, and they're kind of right at it with the video. So I get a wee bit of stick from one of the guys in the office for not kind of doing it, and he thinks, oh, you should be doing that, and people want to know you and stuff. So maybe probably one of my flaws is I kind of don't do enough that kind of video side of things, but I'm trying my best to kind of get more into the social media side of things and get that on side, which I think I've done well over the last couple of years. Now it's progressing and changing all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And just before I ask my last question, what are your social? If like people want to follow you or get in touch with you or something, what are your social medias? Maybe like your Twitter or your Instagram or whatever you use.
It's just dyoung at remax-scotland.net. So I just basically type in Darren Young Remax on Facebook and it will kind of pop up.
Yeah. Well, now the last question, I think it'd be good. I genuinely think it'd be really good to get your opinion on this one. You know, if there's players looking to come up the leagues and looking to go, like, obviously looking to go professional, or if they are professional and they're not sure what to do and stuff like that, maybe that's two parts to that question. But do you have any advice for maybe like even the players coming up and then the players looking to go into, you know, management like yourself? Do you have any advice for those people?
Yeah, for me, it's just going to work as hard as you can, especially as a player. You kind of find your level. There's a lot of guys, and you can get back to some of the guys. When there was a big boy, Ross Stewart. He's now playing for Sunderland down in England, and he came in. He was a big gangly guy, and he was decent enough. You could see he had the tools to go on and do well. And again, I think he scored 13 goals. We got him from the juniors. Someone had spoken to him about him. We went to see him and we thought, God, he's a good player. We managed to sign him at Albion Rovers. And again, just through sheer hard work and determination, you saw him when he came in. He still kind of had a lot to learn and improve. But I think you give him that platform, you give him enough confidence. He went on and he was a top player for us. He ended up moving to St Mirren and got a really good move. They paid a good money. Some money for him, so Albion Rovers done quite well out of it. Then he had a couple of loan moves. Again, still right attitude, right good player, and he gets his move down to England, and he's banging in the goals down in England. So he's somebody that he's came from the juniors, and in the space of I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years, he's now down playing for England. And one of the things was the junior team at the time were they didn't want to lose the player, but they were being very awkward regarding the payment and stuff. They were on a transfer fee, a big transfer fee. So we kind of says, look, this is as much as we can offer. I think the Ross at the time, he wouldn't mind me saying, he was getting like £25 a week, and they were wanting like thousands and thousands of pounds from him. We paid them £1,000, and then him and his dad actually had to pay 500 quid to get out the contract because the chairman at the time was just saying no. So that happened, but again, he did determination enough to know that it's a great opportunity and a great platform for him to come and play for Albion Rovers, and from there he's went and kicked on. But the other one similar, maybe the big boy Anton Dowds, we got him. He came, and again, nothing to do with money. He was signing an amateur deal, so he did well for his pre-season. We says, look, if you keep on progressing, then again we'll give you another deal, etc. So he then 5 games, I think he's got 2 or 3 goals. We signed him on a new deal halfway through the season again, maybe up to 10 goals. Signed him on a new deal, give him an extra year, give him more money, and again Anton then within 2 years gets his move full time to Falkirk. So it's these guys, they've all got the same attitude and the same desire to go and do well, and there's loads of players that I've kind of seen that have kind of came through pro youth, maybe not come through the normal way. Guys are coming through now, performance schools, and they're maybe playing or training with Rangers and Celtic and all this kind of stuff. These guys have kind of went a different route, but sometimes you find that the attitude and the desire they have to go and do well from maybe some guys who have maybe been pampered a wee bit, whether they've been in at Rangers, Celtic, Hibs, Hearts, Aberdeen or whatever, and they're used to, or that their kit's all laid out for them and everything's nice and everything's on a plate, whereas these guys have probably been working as well and kind of playing football on the side. But again, the attitude for me, you've just got to have that attitude and set yourself targets. That's what I kind of did when I was younger at Aberdeen. It was like, right, I'm trying to first season, can I get into the youth team? Can I maybe break into the reserves near the end of it? And then my first season, it was played the full season with the youth team. played juniors for 6 months, then get called back, and then I was playing for the reserves in the second part of the season. So I kind of overachieved in my head mentally what I was wanting to achieve. And then the next season it was, right, playing still old enough for the youth team, then try and play more for the reserves every week, and then maybe you get training with the first team. But I jumped straight to the first team, and again it was just for me, just kind of working hard and just kind of going and doing my thing. For the coaching side of things, is try and get as much experience as possible. And then again, there is obviously a lack of jobs or a lack of opportunities for kind of to become a manager, because obviously in Scotland you've got your leagues, so there's 42 teams in the leagues, and maybe 18 or 20 are full time. So you're sitting there saying there's only 20 full time jobs in Scotland. So it's not an awful lot. And then obviously you've got your juniors, and again that's all kind of part time, and you've got quite a lot of part time teams as well. But it's, I don't know, it's just to be prepared, and again, don't have any. Again, recruitment for me, recruitment's the biggest thing. And again, the more you coach, the more you take in, and again, listen to other people's advice as well. So don't be afraid to let other people, but at the same time, be confident and make decisions. When it usually, I was told this as a player and also even as a coach, usually the first decision or the first thing you think is the right one to do. So whether it's a player, it's like the first pass you see, bang, go and play it, and then react after that, because sometimes you'll take a touch and the next minute somebody smashes and you lose the ball because you've already thought, oh no, should I pass it? And by the time you think, should I pass it, bang. Whereas usually it's like, there's the first pass, go and play it, and then move, pass and move. And the same with a coach, don't second guess yourself. Don't think, oh no, maybe should I take this player off, should I take that player off? If you're watching the game and it's not going to your way, or it's a certain, and again, for me, with certain players don't like getting taken off. They'll have spit the dummy and they'll be in a huff. But for me, it doesn't matter how high profile you are or how low profile you are, or if you're the highest wage earner in £300 or £400 a week, or you're the lowest at £50 a week. For me, if you're doing the business and you're playing week in, week out, then that's all that counts. Because it's, I've had too many guys, and you're kind of maybe, right, he's your bigger player, and you kind of keep him on, he's still not scoring, he's still not defending, and he still makes mistakes, and it gets to a point where you're like, oh, do you know what, let's get the other guy in. So for me, it doesn't really matter who you are, it doesn't really matter what you earn, as a player, if that player's playing and fits your system, then he keeps the jersey, and then the other guys then need to kind of to work their way back in. From my point of view anyway, that's that. But just before you actually become a coach and doing all that, go and learn and go and do as many coaching sessions as you can, and get experience. And nowadays there's loads and loads of things on like LinkedIn, there's stuff on Facebook, there's stuff on Twitter, etc. So there's all these things you can go and look at, and then again maybe even replicate and put in your own session, because there's things that, I mean, every manager or a coach will kind of do that. And again, it's some things I quite like that, but you maybe change it slightly to how you would want your team to play, or you change it to how you'd want to attack or defend.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, awesome. Yeah, I think one thing I'm curious about, actually, I was going to end there, but something I'm actually curious about is that with mental health being such a huge, not like it's huge involved in people, it's something that people are now like pushing and stuff like that. How do you deal with like a player that has like, because obviously you can never really tell, but like there's certain tells you're like, maybe what's wrong with him? Like he's not the same as he was, and that. How do you deal with a player that's maybe going through something like that?
To be honest, there's players I've played with that you didn't know at the time. They maybe had like gambling problems and stuff like this, but and you only found out years later once they're away for the club, or you found out when you speak to them years later, or they've maybe come out and started to get help. So I think it's hard unless the actual person wants to come and speak to them. But now, obviously, exactly what you said there. If I can see a player and he's not quite at it, and it's like, right, how is everything? Is everything okay? There was actually a guy in the last club I was at, and again, it was one of the players that spoke to us and just says, oh look, he's to do with his kid and stuff, and he's got a few problems with the missus or ex-missus or whatever, down south and all this kind of stuff, and And I just kind of spoke to the player and says, look, see if you need time off to go and get things sorted. I goes, just miss training, go down south after the game on Saturday, miss training on the Tuesday, just come back up on the Thursday, just take 4 or 5 days to yourself, and then whatever needs fixed and sorted, you go and do that, and then kind of take care of it. And I think the guy obviously really appreciated it, and he went down and he managed to kind of get everything sorted. But that was just one of the guys in the car that, again, that spoke to us and says, oh, look, Gaffer, he's kind of struggling a wee bit. So I just kind of spoke. I never obviously said, I said, oh, look, how's things? And he just kind of opened up a wee bit once I'd spoken to him. So it was good from that point of view. Obviously, that's his teammate looking out for him. And then, because I kind of then know, because you'll probably find it hard to get many players that will kind of want to come and speak to the manager, and maybe speak to the assistant, or maybe speak to their teammates. So for me, no, 100%. If guys need time off and guys need to kind of, because your health is your wealth, as they say. So it's as long as you're kind of, if you're okay mentally and physically and that, then brilliant. And again, the next part of that is obviously your family. So your kind of family comes first. So allowed him to kind of go and do that and kind of deal with that. So but there's been different issues as well. There's been other guys who have sat in front of you and lied to you, and you know what's happening, or you know certain things that's kind of happened in their life, or you're needing them to speak to you and open up without me turning around saying, like, oh, I already know this. So if they don't really want to talk about it, then it's kind of hard to kind of do that. The situation I was in, I was just kind of asking a guy and speaking and trying to probe, and there wasn't anything like he's going to do anything silly. It was just kind of something that had kind of happened, and I was trying to say, look, you need to kind of cut this out type of thing, or you need to kind of screw the nut a wee bit. So it wasn't kind of life threatening, should we say? And it was just trying to get the guy sitting in front of my face, just lying away, and you're thinking, it's up to him. You can't really do too much if people aren't willing to kind of be honest with you. So you need to kind of let them kind of deal with that.
Yeah. Honestly, genuinely, I've been so like zoned into everything you were saying. It's such like an informative, especially when it comes to like your football past, your management and things. You definitely have had like an awesome career, to be honest with you. Like if you what would you say is like very very last question. What would you say is your next? I keep saying that, but what would you say is like your goals for like the next? I won't say 5 years, 10 years, because it's very like, as you'll know, setting those big timelines is very like hard to set. But what are your goals now when it comes to like football and estates and stuff like that? I know your management and that, but have you got any goals like you've set just now?
Yeah, I mean, the goals, again, we're going to try and achieve, we're a wee bit behind after getting beat last night. We're now kind of 10 points behind the playoff place, but there's 13 games to go. It's still doable. We'll still try. So again, we want to kind of finish the season as best we can. At the same time, if we can get to that sort of playoff place and improve and progress the team, then brilliant. But no, for me and for kind of Stirling Albion, again, if it's not this season, then next season you'll kind of want to be up there challenging, and whether it's through winning the league or whether it's through playing a playoffs and being in that top half, then want to be kind of up there and trying to get yourself promoted. We've been out there. We're in League Two. We've been out League One now for about 7 or 8 years. I think this is the 8th season now. So we're going to try and do that. And again, that's the same as the board and same as the chairman. Everybody's kind of the same ideas. So if we can try and do that, that's the aim, and that's what we're kind of pushing towards.
Yeah, awesome. Now, I do, I really appreciate your time in that, especially considering as soon as you told me, like, you guys didn't have a great game last night, I was like, oh no, he might be like coming to you know what, I don't actually feel like coming on the podcast. I'm very unsure, but yeah, I do appreciate your time. Like it does, I think for people nowadays getting to speak to people like yourself that genuinely have been at the top level, what it's like, as I said, everything we've said, what it feels like, how the game feels and deal with it. So yeah, I really do appreciate your time. Thank you very much. It does mean a lot.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, no, honestly, it's as I said, you were one of the people, like, that's why I messaged you again, because you're one of the people, like, I definitely want to have him on the show, because I think, like, you'd be so good to be on the show. But yeah, and everyone else, I appreciate you guys watching. I appreciate you guys commenting, and the views and stuff are like going up, the watch hours and everything. It's great to like see something like you put so much time and so much effort in, especially, I know exactly how you feel as well, Darren, about late nights and things like that with college, work and everything. It's crazy. But yeah, thank you very much for everybody for watching. Remember, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know if there's anybody you want me to try and get on. Let me know as well. So thank you very much. I'll see you later. And thank you again, Darren.
No problems. Cheers.